If you play video games, this may have happened to you. You look into your game library and notice an older game that you used to play the snot out of. You decide to download it or slot the disc into your console, you boot it up and you start playing, and a thought like this pops into your head. Wow, this still looks really good. And that thought really affirms to you why you even liked it so much in the first place. So that's why today I'm going to be rambling about games that I think have aged well graphically. The criteria for these games is that they must be at least 5 years or older. They have an official way of being played at 4K, and that's just because if it can't be played at 4K or higher frame rate on a modern system or PC, then it's not really aged well. Anyways, continuing the criteria though, remasters and remakes are out because those aren't really old, but re-releases are allowed. And finally, I'm only going to be looking at 3D games. That's just because 2D games, I found that sprite work is often timeless. So games like Chrono Trigger, Pokemon Black and White, Octopath Traveler, those are games that look really good as pixel art and will continue forever. So with that all of the way, let's get into it. The first title we'll be looking at is Star Wars Battlefront II. And in the script, 2 is in Roman numerals, which means we are, of course, looking at EA's Battlefront. Now, you may think that that's not that old, but it did release in 2017, which is technically over 5 years ago, so we're going to be covering it. Battlefront 2 did not come out in the best shape, but it can be pretty fun to hop into every once in a while now. And if you do hop in, your eyes are in for a treat. It amazes me every time I play it that modern graphics haven't come much further than this game. The material quality definitely deserves my first bit of praise. Trooper armor has an apparent glossiness to it, and when peering deeper, you can see the nicks and grooves from the wear on the armor. Model quality is similarly well done, with skin typically looking like skin and hair not really having any aliasing issues. That and the good material quality really does help sell the realistic angle the devs were going for. Also in service to that realistic angle is the game's really good lighting system. It's not perfect, but the light sources in the game are bright and give a good illusion to being emissive instead of it just being a light texture on a map or something. The game also has very impressive particles that not only look great with spark effects, but also in the rain. Where the lighting starts to fall short by modern standards is in the shadows and the reflections. I think the reflections look great in motion, but most of them seem to be pretty smudgy and blurry when focused on. And then that brings us to the shadows, which are normally inoffensive, but on occasion can exhibit some blockiness. I know I'm really nitpicking, especially since the game is over 5 years old, but it does wear on the immersion. Ultimately, the game looks great, though, and I'd argue that it runs very well, too, and that's the more important part. Modern gaming is so full of having to trade off good performance for good visuals that it's really nice to see that in Battlefront 2 you can have the performance and the good visuals, right? You don't have to trade. And I just wish more games did that. Now, it's not too much a surprise that a game from 2017 is aging fairly well, as the past 6 years' main graphical innovations have been connected to the tracing of rays. Rasterized gaming hasn't really come as far. So I think we need to move a little bit further back to really see some games that are very impressive for how well they're holding up. Let's say to 2013, we'll take a look at BioShock Infinite. Now, I'll start by saying this. I didn't intend to include this game in this video. I had rented it back when it first came out for Xbox 360, played it for 6 hours ago, never touched it again. So it really wasn't at the forefront of my mind. But let me tell you, it still looks great. I was very impressed. So before I get into this, a very begrudging thank you to my friend Nathan, despite him generally bothering my audience. He was the one who recommended that I play this. Anyway, so diving back into BioShock, or I guess in this one you don't dive in, you go up. Anyways, my first point of praise is the very surprisingly clean and detailed textures and objects. I was not expecting that going in. Not every object in the game is high res, but a lot of the objects have a very clean and defined appearance. Very few things or characters look blurry, and the game's art style leans very nicely into providing a clear distinction between objects and their backgrounds. You can really tell things apart, which is nice. Now, on the subject of clear visuals, the reflections can be stunning. Although they seem to omit the player and they aren't full resolution or they don't have anti-aliasing on, I can't tell which, the reflections are very detailed and portray the scene they are mirroring very convincingly. I'd even argue that these puddles in BioShock have better reflections than Battlefront II, but that's neither here nor there. Now, with that praise, I do want to remark on a couple things that haven't aged quite as well with this game. Although it was future-proof to support high-quality audio, something that Battlefront 2 doesn't even do, but that's another thing, it did not seem to future-proof, BioShock that is, for HUD elements. They do not seem to scale well with higher resolutions, as you've probably seen in the gameplay. I don't actually mind because it's legible enough for me to see what's going on, see how much health I have in my items, and it allows me to see more of the very, very impressive visuals. But regardless of my preference, I felt it was an issue that needed addressing. That being addressed, though, I am very confident in saying that BioShock is still an excellent looking game. Finally, we come to the last game I will be tackling here today. It's not the best looking game ever. In fact, it's not even the best looking game in its franchise. However, for a game that came out in 2007, it amazes me how well Halo 3 holds up. And clearly, 343 Industries, the current custodians of the Halo franchise, they agree, as they neglected to go for a remake and or remaster a la Halo CE or Halo 2, and instead just updated the original game to run at up to 4K on the current Xbox at the time, which was the Xbox One X. Now it's on PC through the Master Chief Collection, and I can really see why 343 decided not to mess with the visuals. So let's start with probably the most significant factor in the quality of the visuals, and that is the excellent and cohesive art style. Halo 3 doesn't shoot to look realistic, it shoots to look like Halo, and that does, in a way, lead to its visuals looking just right after all these years. It looks exactly how it's supposed to look. Now, obviously, art style alone doesn't improve visuals, so Halo 3 has some pretty clever techniques and tricks that it uses to make itself look more appealing, such as its heavy reliance on quality particle effects, which is what I think is the second major thing that helps to Halo 3's aging so well. Bolts of plasma are colorful, but they're also bright and splash on impact. Explosions are large, bright, and fast, making them look believable and impactful. Enemy armor buckles and breaks when under fire. It's truly great. The distortion from the gravity hammer, I could go on. Yeah, the textures can be a little fuzzy, repetitive, or just flat. But if you compare it to other games from 2007, like Mass Effect, Portal, or Assassin's Creed, Halo 3 is the only one I look at and still think to myself, wow, this looks good. This is definitely not a comprehensive list of old games that still look good, especially considering I left out any games from the 90s and early 2000s. It's not because good looking games from that time don't exist, it's just because I would have been a little baby man when they were out, and so I don't have a lot of experience with them. But what do you guys think? Do the games I listed here hold up in your opinion? Are there any other games you'd like me to cover? Let me know in the comments. And most importantly, thank you guys for watching.